has this become one of my favorite decors for this time of year? Let's make one together. This is just the cutest snowman that we're going to be making today. I've already made one with the Herrschners yarn. I love the sparkle that's in this white color with the Herrschner sparkle. I've got this blue scarf, cute burlap. Oh, it's adorable. I have all the yarn listed that I used for this one in the written pattern. And today we're going to be making another one with the Brava worsted, mainly because if I made this on camera in white, you would just not like me very much. So we're going to do it more in this cream with this tweed so that we can see those stitches a little bit better. So the supplies that you will need today are some scissors to cut the yarn and also some twine if you want to do some of those button twines or twine on the hat. Feel free to mix up those little accessories that top this off to use something you want. You can use real buttons if you want. You'll need a yarn needle to weave in those ends, a stitch marker, always a good idea. We will be working in the round. The beautiful thing about this snowman is the main part of him is one piece. So we're not having to do the seaming here to make this snowman come together. It's one seamless piece that's amazing. So you'll want a stitch marker to keep track of those rounds. We'll also be using a 4mm crochet hook. This will be used for all of the snowman except for the hat, which we're going to double strand the hat and go up to a 4.5mm crochet hook. The yarn I'm using today is the wren, the wasabi, the pumpkin bread, and the chimney sweep. Oh, those are really cute names, especially for this time of year. So I'm going to be doing the snowman with this, the scarf in the green, his nose in the orange, and the hat in this tweed black. Let's get started and see how he turns out. Now, I also want to note that in the pattern, I have printable snowman tags for the ad-free version that is available to purchase. These are cute, emotional support snowman, the snowman story. These are just cute little tags that we can cut and tie onto our snowman if we are gifting it. It's just a little bonus in that ad-free PDF. Now, I will be stuffing my snowman with fiber fill. I'm not going to use any yarn scraps because sometimes that can show through a lighter color of fabric. So if you have fiber fill, or you can use your yarn scraps if you want to fill and stuff this. Be careful not to overstuff. We'll talk about that when we get there. But to get started, we're going to grab our 4mm hook, and then we're going to grab our orange yarn for the nose. We're actually starting with the nose and setting it aside. That way, when we're ready to pick it up and attach it, it's going to be really quick and simple. So we'll be creating the nose, then we'll make the snowman body. And as we do that, we'll add the nose and these cute little mock buttons. And then we're going to be making the scarf and the hat to add to it. This is so much fun. Let's get started with that nose. Now, to make this nose, we're going to take our orange yarn and create a magic ring, placing our hook into that magic ring, and then we can start by chaining one. The reason why I chain one is it helps with that magic ring, but the rest of this is going to be working continuously. So be sure to grab a stitch marker to keep track of those rounds. I'm going to start by single crocheting 4 stitches inside this magic ring. And now that I have those 4 stitches, I'm going to go ahead and grab my stitch marker, and we're going to mark the very first stitch of this round. That way we're keeping track of where that is as we work continuously. And we're going to take our tail end, and I'm going to pull this, but not all the way close. The reason why is because I don't want it too tight yet. It makes it kind of hard to get into that first stitch for this next round. So that leads us right into round 2. We're going to go right back and remove that stitch marker. And then I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches into the very first stitch of this round. It can be a little bit tight for this first round. Bear with me. After this, it does get a little bit easier. But we're going to single crochet 2 stitches into that first stitch of the round. And we'll want to mark the very first stitch of this round. Just grab our stitch marker. And then we're going to single crochet into the next stitch. And we're going to do that one more time, those steps. We're going to do 2 single crochets into the next. And then we're going to single crochet into the next, which is the last stitch of the round. So now we have increased from 4 single crochets to 6. We can go ahead and tighten down that center now And you're also going to note, this happens to me, this is a very common thing that happens when we're making this style of crochet, is that my wrong side is the side that's actually kind of curling on the outside, and my right side is on the inside of that curl. So at this point, I'll just flip it. I'm just going to like push that fabric so that the right side is showing out. And now we're ready for that next round. And now for round 3, we are simply going to be single crocheting into each stitch around. Be sure to mark the first stitch of the round, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch around so our stitch count will remain at 6 stitches for round 3. And now that we've worked round 3, we are going to move our stitch marker and do round 4, which we will be increasing again. So for round 4, we're going to do 2 single crochet stitches right into that very first stitch of the round, and go ahead and mark the very first stitch. And then we're going to single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And that's our repeat around. So we'll do 2 single crochets into the next, and then single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, which is the last stitches of this round. And for this round, for round 4, we have increased to 8 stitches total. Now we're going to move that stitch marker again. And for the next round, for round 5, we are going to single crochet into each stitch around. So no increasing. We're going to single crochet around for 8 stitches. Now I've moved my stitch marker, and if you like a shorter nose, you can stop right here at round 5 and you can attach it to your snowman later and just set this aside with a long tail. But if you like a little bit of a longer nose, we're going to do round 6, and this is simply single crocheting into each stitch around for 8 stitches again, and that will get us through round 6. Now that we are through round 6, we're going to simply grab our scissors, fasten off, but leaving a tail end so that we can attach this to the snowman later. And then the other tail end that's coming from the inside, we can just shove that in. That will work as enough stuffing usually for this. Even if you have to cut a little bit off, that's fine. I didn't add any extra stuffing to the snowman nose because I just used the tail end of my yarn, put the head all in there, and that worked great. And we're going to be setting this aside to attach later. Now we are going to be working the snowman body, and this is worked from top down continuously. And we're going to start with a magic ring or magic circle. I've heard it called both. And we are going to be working into that magic ring, simply chaining 1 to get started on that ring. And then we are going to be single crocheting 12 stitches inside this magic ring. Always a good idea to mark the very first stitch of each round so that we keep track of where we started. Now, after we have 12 stitches inside that magic ring, we are going to pull that almost all the way closed, but I don't like to go too tight because I like to give myself a little bit of space till I complete this next round. Before this type of stitch, we will be joining and turning. So I have the stitch, the first stitch in this round. We're going to move that stitch marker out of that stitch and join to that very first stitch of this round. We're going to join with the slip stitch. I like to tighten that down a little, and then we're going to turn our work and chain 1. So when we start this next round, we're not working into the chain, we're not working into the slip stitch, we are working into the first stitch of the round, and we'll be working into the back loops only for this round. So we will be single crocheting 2 into each stitch around in that back loop only. So there's single crocheting 2 in the back loop only for the first stitch of the round. And now we're going to single crochet 2 into each remaining stitch around in the back loop only. At the end of round 2, we will have a total of 24 single crochet stitches. Now I'm moving my tail end here just to make it cleaner for the video so there's nothing obstructing the view. As long as your tail end is secure, you don't have to weave it completely in. So now at the end of round 2, I am going to move my stitch marker and join to the first stitch of this round. I like to tighten that down and then turn my work. And now we're going to do rounds 3 and 4. And rounds 3 and 4 are the same. And these are going to be our modified puff stitch rounds. Now these rounds will never have increases or decreases for this snowman. And so I'm going to show these rounds on camera this time, but as we go through the repeats, we'll just know to repeat rounds 3 through 4 when we get going here. So I'm going to chain 1 to start, and then this is our very first stitch in this round. And we're going to be skipping that stitch. So we're going to skip the first stitch and single crochet into the next. And now we're going to work back into that skip stitch. So we're going to yarn over, insert the skip stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop and pull it to be the height of the first loop on the hook. Then yarn over, insert into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up the loop. So now we have 5 loops on our hook. We will yarn over and pull through the first 4 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2. And that completes that modified puff stitch. So far around, what we've done so far is we've skipped one and we single crocheted a stitch, which that's that stitch. And then we worked back over into that skip stitch for that modified puff stitch. And we're going to be repeating that all the way around. So we're going to skip the next and single crochet into the next, working back into the skip stitch. We're going to work that puff stitch. Now, these rounds do not change in stitch count, so the stitch count will be the same as the previous round, which is 24 stitches in this case. And so I'm simply going to work all the way around until I have 24 stitches. Now that I have worked that all the way around, we're going to move our stitch marker from the first stitch, join with the slip stitch, and then we will turn our work. And now we're going to be working a round 4, which is a repeat of round 3. So we'll chain 1, skip the first stitch and single crochet into the next, which when we're working round 4, we're single crocheting into the single crochet stitch from the round below. Then we will work back into that skip stitch with a modified puff stitch. And now we're going to place that stitch marker back into the first stitch of this round. And we're going to repeat those steps all the way around, just like we did for round 3. The stitch count will stay the same. Now at the end of round 4, we're going to move our stitch marker and slip stitch to the first stitch of this round. And then we're going to turn our work. And we're going to be working rounds 5 and 6. And these are done as single crochet stitches in the back loop only. But we will also be increasing on these particular single crochet rounds. So I'm going to chain 1. And then working in the back loop only at the very first stitch, we are going to single crochet 2. And then we will place our stitch marker. And then we're simply going to do 1 single crochet into the next. And then that's going to be a repeat around. So we will single crochet 2 into the next, and then single crochet 1 into the next. Now this will increase from 24 stitches to 36 stitches at the end of round 5. Now at the end of round 5, we're going to move our stitch marker, slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, turn our work, and then we're going to begin round 6 by chaining 1. And the very first stitch, we're going to be working in the back loop only, working 2 single crochet stitches. And then we will place that stitch marker to the first stitch of this round. And then we're going to single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And that's going to be our repeat around. So that's working in the back loop only. We will work 2 single crochet stitches into the next, and then single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. At the end of round 6, we will have a total of 48 stitches, and then we will join and turn. After round 6, we're going to be doing rounds 7 and 8, which are simply a repeat of rounds 3 through 4 without changing that stitch count. So I'll be working that off camera and coming back for rounds 9 through 10. And now we're at rounds 9 through 10. And for these next rounds, we are not going to be doing any increasing. So rounds 9 and 10 are simply going to be single crocheting in the back loop only all the way around, joining and turning. After 9 through 10, we're going to do rounds 11 through 14, which that's just repeating the 4-row repeat. So we'll do the 2 rounds of the puff stitches and then 2 more rounds of the single crochet stitches. And then rounds 15 through 16 are going to be a repeat of rounds 3 through 4 again. So from this point through round 16, we're going to be working in that 4-row wheat stitch repeat without doing any increasing. So it's just a lot of what we've done before. So I'm going to work through round 16 and then come on back. Now that I'm through round 16, it's time for us to work round 17 and round 18. And for round 17 and 18, we're going to quickly decrease on round 17 and then come right back out for round 18 using these single crochet stitches. So for round 17, we are going to be single crocheting 2 together through the back loop only all the way around. So we're going to insert our hook through the first stitch through the back loop only, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert our hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now with 3 loops on the hook, we will yarn over and pull through all 3. Go ahead and mark that stitch. Now this is a traditional single crochet 2 together where we are just creating a decrease across 2 stitches. If you want, you can also do what's called an invisible decrease. I just want to show you the option. An invisible decrease is where we insert our hook through the back loop only of the first stitch, then we rotate our hook and insert through the back loop only of the next stitch, then we yarn over and pull through those stitches, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Now, the type of decrease that you do is completely up to you. There's really no right or wrong way on this. Just keep it consistent all the way around. This is where we're going to be tying the scarf anyway. So for round 17, we're going to single crochet 2 together through the back loop only all the way around and decrease to 24 stitches. And now we are going to do round 18. So at the end of round 17, we will join with the slip stitch, turn our work, and here's where we're going to be doing some increasing. So for this round, we're going to chain 1. We'll be working in that back loop only again, but we are going to be doing 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch around. So we're going to be increasing right back to 48 stitches in the round. So do 2 single crochet stitches in the back loop only all the way around for round 18. Now, once you've increased all the way around for round 18, we're back to 48 stitches. For rounds 19 and 20, we're going to be repeating rounds 3 through 4. So now we have worked through round 20. We can kind of see where the indent for the top of the head goes to, and we've started to flare back out. But before we go any further, what we will want to do is go to the front of the snowman. So we've got our seam on the back. We want to go to the front, and this is where we're going to grab the nose that we have previously made, and we are going to be stitching this onto rounds 10 and 11. So basically this single crochet round right on that and below is where we're going to be stitching this, right on the center front of the snowman. Now it's much easier to stitch this now versus later because this is a one-piece item, so it will be closing soon as we work all the way down. So we want to make sure that we get this placed now. And this is before we are stuffing it. So after this, we can kind of start to stuff the head as we go. But while we can still get our hands inside of this snowman, we're going to go ahead and just whip stitch that nose onto the front. Now that we have the nose on here, we're going to go to round 21. And round 21 is going to be another increase round. So I'm going to turn my work with the wrong side facing here, and I will chain 1. And working in the back loops only, we're going to single crochet 2 into that first stitch, and then mark that first stitch of the round to keep track of it. And then we are going to single crochet in the back loop only for the next 3 stitches. And that's going to be our repeat around. So once again, the repeat is to do 2 single crochet stitches into the next, and then single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And that's the repeat around for round 21. And at the end of round 21, we will have a total of 60 stitches. And for round 22, we're simply going to turn our work and single crochet in the back loop only all the way around. No more increasing. We're going to stick with 60 stitches for a little while we create that body. Now, I'm going to keep doing that 4-row repeat. So the single crochet rounds and those puff stitch rounds. Until I get through round 32. I'm going to come back on round 32 because we're going to talk about putting the button X marks on there. But for now, we're going to be working in those 60 stitches, doing the 4-round repeat through rounds 32. Now that we have worked through round 32, we're going to stop and we're going to be putting some buttons on the front of this. You can use actual buttons, you can use yarn, or you can use some twine. I like using the twine for the natural look. And we're going to be doing X's. That's what I'm going to do, but feel free to get creative. I'm going to do an X on rounds 23 and 24, and then 27 and 28. And no one will ever see the inside of your work. So if you want to tie a knot in the back to secure the back of this, feel free because no one's ever going to know. No one's going to know if you did some nice weaving in or you tied a knot. It's on the inside of our work. So I'm just going to create an X here on these rounds and then do the same down here. And now that we have created the buttons for the front, we can keep on going and we will be decreasing. So we'll also want to start stuffing this as we go. Now, the key to making a really cute amigurumi style anything is to not overstuff. When you overstuff, it stretches your stitches and you can kind of see through your stitches. So it's better, honestly, to understuff than overstuff. And as we go here, I just want to mention, we will be closing the bottom, but if you wanted this guy to have those pellets in the bottom so it stands up even better, you can toss it around. The pellets in the bottom of this work well too. So I'm going to do a little bit of stuffing and then we're going to start decreasing the bottom. Now for round 33, we are going to be turning our work, chaining 1 to start this round, and we will be doing some decreasing. So we are going to single crochet 2 together through the back loop only for the very first stitches in this round, and you can mark that if you need to, and then we will single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, and that's going to be our repeat around for this round. So that's single crochet 2 together and then single crochet into each of the next 4. This is going to decrease our stitch count to 50 stitches at the end of round 33. And now for round 34. So for 34, we're also going to be decreasing. So we're going to start by chaining 1 and then working in the back loops only. We're going to do a single crochet 2 together, and then we're going to single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And that's our repeat around. So that's to single crochet 2 together and then single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Now at the end of this round, we will have a total of 40 stitches. And then for round 35, we're going to do a wheat stitch round and then come on back. We're not going to do 2 rounds. We're just doing the wheat stitch round for round 35 and then coming on back. Now we are at the end of round 35 and we're going to turn our work and then we're going to be working continuously. So stuff this as you go because this is going to be closing, and we're not going to do any more puff stitch rounds. We're going to work single crochet stitches and we are going to be turning our work as we go. This way, it's just a continuous bottom that looks really, really clean and nice. So for round 36, we are going to start with doing a back loop only, single crochet 2 together. We're still going to be working the back loop only for this round. And I'm going to go ahead and mark that stitch. And then we're going to back loop only, single crochet into the next 2. And that's going to be our repeat all the way around. At the end of this round, we will have 30 stitches. But we're going to do a single crochet 2 together in the back loop only and then single crochet into each of the next 2. Repeat that around and then come on back, and we're not going to be joining. We're going to be working continuously. Now at the end of round 36, we're going to move our stitch marker. We're not going to join and turn. We're simply going to work continuously, and we're going to single crochet 2 together for the first 2 stitches of this round. And then we're going to mark that with our stitch marker. And now we're going to single crochet into the next. And that's going to be our repeat around. So we're going to do a single crochet 2 together and then single crochet 1. This is going to rapidly decrease. This will bring the stitch count at the end of round 37 to 20 stitches. Now at this point, we do want to make sure that we are stuffing as we go because we're going to be closing this quite quickly. So be sure to put a little bit more stuffing in the end of each round as you go so that it's easier to get that last little bit in there. Now for this next round, for round 38, we are simply going to single crochet 2 together all the way around. And this means at the end of this round, we'll have a total of 10 stitches. Now get any final stuffings in there because this is going to be our last round, but you don't want to stuff it so much that it's bulging out the bottom. You want to make sure the bottom still sits flat. Once again, overstuffing is something we want to avoid. Now for our very last round, for round 39, we are once again going to single crochet 2 together all the way around, which means we will end with 5 stitches. Now, after you've completed those last 5 stitches, we can fasten off and grab our yarn needle. We're going to close the last little bit of this hole. Now, in order to close this hole, I'm going to loop through the front loop of each stitch around, and then we'll simply just pull it tight, weave it in, and then fasten off. This is where we're simply going to pull that closed. Weave in any gaps you might see underneath as you weave in your tail end. Now that we've got the body portion of this done and he sits up quite nicely, we are going to set this aside and we're going to be working on the accessories. Now for the scarf, you can do any color you want, and we're going to start by placing a slip knot onto our hook, and then we are going to chain 71. Now after chaining 71, I like to work in these bottom humps so that this edge of the chain looks really nice once we start working into it, and single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then we will single crochet into each stitch across, which means for row 1 of the scarf, we will have a total of 70 single crochet stitches. And now for rows 2 and 3 of the scarf, the instructions will be the same for these rows. We're going to chain 1, and then we will single crochet into the first stitch. And now we're going to be doing that puff stitch repeat where we're skipping a stitch, single crocheting into the next, and working the modified puff into that skipped stitch. So what we're used to, we'll be working that all the way across. And then when we get to the end of this row, we will have 1 stitch left, and we will single crochet into that last stitch. And then we're just going to repeat that row again. Now you can fasten off once you're done with those 3 rows and we have our scarf. You can leave it as is, or if you would like, you can cut some yarn to make some fringe. And if you're using it along this edge, you can absolutely not weave in your ends and just simply use it as part of that fringe if you want. I like to do what's called a lark's head knot. So I pull through the center of all these strands, and I pull that to the middle of them, and I create a loop on this side, and then I simply put my fingers through that loop, grab all the strands, including any ends you don't want to weave in. So I'm just going to pull that one through there too. And then we can tighten it down and have some cute fringe. Once I tie fringe across each end, then I'll cut them to be even. Now that we've got this cute little scarf done, we can simply wrap this around the neck and then tie it to there. And I actually tied mine a little bit tight because it does help shape that neck, and it's super, super cute. Now, the last thing we have to make for this cute snowman is a hat. And I just started filming it in black, hoping it would work, and went, I'm going to get a lot of really upset comments if I keep going. So I am changing colors. I'm not going to be using black on video for obvious reasons, but you can use black. And I'm going to be using the gray tweed from Wheat Crochet. So we're going to start by making a magic circle or a magic ring, putting our hook into there, and chaining 1 to get it started. Now we are going to start by doing 8 half double crochets into this magic circle, but I like to use what are called stacked single crochets instead of doing like a lot of chains at the beginning of each round. So we're going to talk about that. So our first stitch, we're going to insert the magic circle, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And yes, I understand we just made a single crochet, but we're not done yet. We're going to go back through these left bars. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2. And that is completing our stacked single crochet. We're going to go ahead and mark that stitch. And then we're going to do 7 more. So half double crochets into that magic circle so that we end round 1 with 8 total stitches. Now that we have round 1 with 8 stitches, we are going to pull our tail end to start to close that center. And then we're going to join to the very first stitch of the round. Now, what I like to do when working this type of join is I'm going to actually be joining into the back loop only with a slip stitch. And then when I start this next round, I'm actually going to be going through both loops for round 2 to start that stacked single crochet for the very first stitch. So there's no chaining when you work that stacked single crochet. And then we're going to half double crochet into the same stitch. So now we've increased that very first stitch by working 2 stitches into it. And we're going to be working 2 stitches into each remaining stitch around. So 2 half double crochets, got to grab both loops of the yarn there, 2 half double crochet stitches into each stitch around, which means we will end round 2 with a total of 16 stitches. Now at the end of round 2, we're going to move that stitch marker, join with a slip stitch, and then we're ready for round 3. And for round 3, we're going to start with a stacked single crochet into that very first stitch, mark that first stitch of the round, and then half double crochet into the same. So we've increased again for the beginning of this round. Then we will work 1 half double crochet into the next, and then we're going to do a repeat of working 2 half double crochets into the next stitch and 1 half double crochet into the next. So by working that repeat at the end of round 3, we will have a total of 24 stitches. And now for round 4, we're going to join for the end of round 3 and then work a stacked single crochet starting for round 4. And then half double crochet into the same. Mark the very first stitch of this round if you need to. And then we're going to half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So the repeat around is going to be 2 half double crochets into the next. And then we will half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And when we repeat that around at the end of round 4, we will have a total of 32 stitches. Now for round 5, I've joined normal at the end of round 4. You can join in the back loop, but for this round, I am finding joining through both loops works great. And then we are going to work the back loops only for this entire round, and we are going to be half double crocheting into each stitch around in the back loop only. This helps shape that top of the hat and help it curve around that top edge, working down towards the bottom of the hat. Now, after round 5, we're going to be working rounds 6 through 9 regular. We're not going to be working in the back loop. We're just going to be working regular half double crochets into each stitch around. So we're just half double crocheting for each of the rounds of 6 through 9. And now here we are for round 10. I've joined. And now for round 10, we're going to be working in the front loops only. For this round, I'm going to start by doing the first stitch as a stacked single crochet, and then we are going to be increasing again, and we're going to do another half double crochet right into that same stitch as the first. Mark that first stitch of the round if you need to, and then we're going to be increasing on this round so that we end the round with 40 stitches. So what we'll do is, working the front loop only, we will half double crochet into the next 3. And then a repeat once again is to do 2 half double crochets into the next, and then half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. This is going to help flip out the bottom of this hat so it looks more like a hat. We'll repeat that around for round 10. And now we're going to join at the end of round 10. And for round 11, we will be increasing again, but we're not going to be working through those front loops again. We're going to work it normal through both loops. We're going to start with a stacked single crochet and then a half double crochet into the same as the first. And then we are going to be half double crocheting into each of the next 4 stitches. So once again, that repeat is going to be to do 2 half double crochets into the next, and then half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And so at the end of round 11, we will have a total of 48 stitches. Now for round 12, we are simply going to be slip stitching in the back loop only. So I don't really like joining for this. I'm going to go right into that very first stitch without joining and slip stitching in the back loop only all the way around. I just think it looks really nice doing it that way. So this will just finish off the edge just to make it look a little bit more clean, I guess you could say. I just think it adds a little bit of an extra detail to slip stitch in the back loop only all the way around. Now, once we have slip stitched all the way around, we can fasten off, remove our stitch markers. I did not slip stitch to join because I'm going to be doing what's called an invisible join here. I think it looks really clean and really nice. So grab your yarn needle and get your yarn on there. Now, to do an invisible join, we are going to skip the next stitch and go through the next as if to crochet it and pull all the way through, and then go back to the last stitch worked and go right down that back loop or right down the center of it. So we're kind of creating a mock stitch over a stitch. We're not changing the stitch count, but that is a great way to join. And then we'll just weave in our end. Now, the last thing that we can do for our hat is we can take a few pieces of twine. I just took 3 and tie it around the bottom. It looks really cute. And if you want, you can tack your hat onto your snowman, or you can simply just let it sit on top. That's completely up to you. But how adorable is this? And you'll notice this one looks slightly larger than this one, and that's what happens sometimes when we change yarn. The nice thing about this pattern is I'm not too concerned about it because it's an amigurumi style pattern, a home decor. It's not a fitted item, so it's okay if they size slightly different. They are super, super cute. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button, follow my social media, and come back for more fun projects soon.